Well, welcome back, guys. This is British Touring Car Championship SBR round 4 at Autopolis, the Legends series that's going from strength to strength. And tonight we're at Autopolis, like I say, the short track, with Nathan leading the standings from Ben, the reigning champion, Liam, Sean, and Lewis there in 5th. But as you can see, there's a variety of teams, variety of colour schemes, and that's what makes this championship great. And we're looking to have some great racing around a very tight and twisty track. The team sees Nathan and Brian leading the way, 10 points ahead of Ben and John, but all that can change with a few other drivers coming in. We'll come to that as the racing progresses. But on pole it was Nathan again, from Sean, Liam, Lewis, Ben, Adam, Jeff, Leon with a great performance in 8th. New guy there is Nick in 9th, Greg 10th, and another new guy there, Will, in 11th. Get ready for the start then, and lights are up, ready to rock and roll. Nathan will try and get the perfect stop. Ben's creeped forward there, so he'll get a penalty for that, and he has, and that's a huge penalty he'll get for that. And he's still not rolling now, he's still stopped. Everyone's missed him, and that's a credit to all the drivers that have missed his car, and now he's got going again, but about 3 seconds off the pack. Disaster for the champion, but Nathan it is that leads. Sean trying to go around the outside, but that's not really going to work because the rest of the field come funneling through turn 1. Very hard call on that. It drops away and you can't really see it, but no, that's important right now. They're all through. Lewis having a little dive bomb down the inside of Sean, but that's not doing. And Sargent, there it is, moving up through in the Laser Tools car, sideways from looked like it was Ash or Sharp. And then Corkery filling in this week for Andrew Oster, who's not been able to make it this week. So watch out for Coleman in number 11, Seat. Halfway through the lap now, and heading up towards the last corner, which is a tight hairpin. And looks like Ben's picked up one place after that contact, which saw the new driver Souters in the barrier. And there it is, Edwards moving up the inside of Piper there to take 4th place, and Colin Barrow just behind them, sideways there from Welsh, and someone off into the gravel. I didn't quite see who that was, but it looked like a blue car. And Craigie's in 13th place with Milden there trying to come back through, but it's Tompkinson that leads ahead of McEwen and Cool as they swap paint, both Scottish drivers, so not got far to fight each other if they fall out. And there is, I'm going to call him Greg because I can't pronounce his second name, battling with Sharp. The Vauxhall livery ahead of the Rocket Cargo one. And here's Milden, fighting the back, trying to get past Ross. Ross didn't quite see him in a bit of contact, nothing major. And a bit of a look down the inside at the hairpin, but that's not on. And meanwhile, Souters is trying to get past Riley, and has done. Moves him out a little bit, but takes the position. Craigie then falling to the back, but it is Tompkinson that is running away with this already. McEwen trying to keep chase, but not really able to, as Colin Barrow tries to dive down the inside of Piper, and he looks like he's got it, and he has. Seat moves past the Vauxhall, and in the background the other Seat's off, and that's Corkery, the reserve, and he's fallen to basically the back of the field. That's a disaster for him after a bright start and a good qualifying. He's filling in for Ulster, like I said, who's not been able to make it, and that is McEwen, number 41, and Cool, number 14, and that's allowed Edwards through, number 51, and he's through down the inside, and he'll take the position, and does. The Gardex car passing the Chevrolet, and Colin Barrow coming up close as well to that. And meanwhile, this pack looks full of energy. Meanwhile, there you see Sharp still leading the way in 8th place there, and Milden trying to get back past Sargent, and he's done that. A little bit of contact on the exit, but 2 different lines, and he's through into 10th place already, so 3 laps in and he's passed 6 cars. He'll still be trying to fight his way up as far as he can, but whatever happens, it's a disaster, and it's going to affect his race 2 as well, remember, because race 2 is the starting order, the finishing order, from this race, so knock-on effects definitely there. So his next victim is going to be Greg, and Greg's fighting hard with Sharp, as we know, and everyone in some sort of battling, although Chris is starting to drop off a little bit, and Tompkinson's away with this and looks certain for the victory already, even at this early stage. McEwen, Edwards and Cool all fighting for second place, with Columbero and Piper not too far back. And well, that's interesting, and it looks like there's contact there, so we'll have to see what happened. It was Greg and Sharp into turn 1, and here is the replay. So Greg's got a good slipstream, he's thundering down into the first corner and down the inside, pulls out, probably just looking, but he's left it too late. He's locked up and he's into the side of the Vauxhall and Milden into the back of that, and then more chaos as Ross and Sargent get involved. And well, that looked a bit unusual for Greg. He doesn't make mistakes like that normally, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, but that has completely ruined Sharp's race. Sharp doing really well, was up there in 9th place, so we'll have to see what happened there. Greg touring away from the scene of the crime, but he'll be the first to apologise, knowing Greg. And meanwhile, this battle for second place, because there is no battle for the lead, that's decided already at this early stage, and looks like that's going to be a fair battle, as Sargent now come under more pressure from Milden. Milden got held up in that crash at turn 1 and has to try now to re-overtake Sargent. And Sargent number 13, hopefully it's not unlucky for him. Ben number 1, the champion from last season, and just struggling to adapt to these new cars a little bit, I would say. It's quite hard to find the sweet spot in them. Tyre wear's reduced, by the way, this week for to ×3 from ×5, but as the shark attack comes towards you and cameraman gets lost, there is Milden number 1 into the first corner, trying to go around the outside of Sargent. That's brave and probably won't work, but it might give him a little run down the back straight if you change your camera angles there. But now Milden will try to go around the outside of Sargent. That's probably not going to work, but he's trying it anyway. He's up on the curb, but he's got the move done, and fair play to Sargent, he gave him the room to do that. Like I say, Nick Sargent's new to the league, he's into the Laser Tools car, and here's the other new guy, Souters, and he's number 15, I believe he is, and he's joined Team Chevy, and both quite exciting drivers from what we've seen already, so hopefully there'll be a credit to the league, and it looks like they're going to be. Meanwhile, McEwen and Kuehl still going at it, and also got Edwards in there in the mix, with Columbero just keeping a watching brief, the American, or should we say the American, I don't know, you decide. There's John Riley with Will Souters behind him, and Ashley Sharp just bring up to 14th, though obviously Ash just recovering from his shark attack from Greg. Greg seems to be touring, to be honest with you. I think there's an issue, we're hearing its brakes, so hopefully he can get that fixed for race 2, but that explains why he T-boned Sharp. And well, Edwards is doing his usual overdriving, and he's on the grass this time, trying to go around the outside of Cool, but that's not going to work. And meanwhile, around the outside and still not working. That looks like there was contact, because Sargent's come right out of the throttle, and quite correctly so, if he did hit Milden, and it looks like he might have. Meanwhile, shout out there to Welsh there, Leon Welsh in 7th place, doing well. And he's one of the most improved this season. He might even get the most improved at this point. He's actually doing really well. Jeff will probably fight him for that. But there is Leon Welsh, number 251. That's the number that his dad drove in, I think it was stock car racing. Stock cars in this country is slightly different to stock cars in America, let's put it that way. But Corkery making good progress as well after his incidents. He's up to 10th now. And Greg's still running out of brakes, no one around him, so yeah, that backs up the theory that we're hearing of brake problems for Greg. But meanwhile, the person that hasn't got brake problems is Nathan Tompkinson, leading the race from Liam McEwen, Sean Cool, and then it is Lewis Edwards, and got a nice little gap back to Leon. Then it's Ben Milden and Nick Sargent, Brian Ross, and then it's Coleman Corkery. Greg just touring back to the pits now, trying to stay out of everyone's way, and he's already apologised to Ash for that manoeuvre, and rightly so. I think it's not really anyone's fault, but it's ruined Sharp's brilliant race up until that point. Meanwhile, Cool trying to go around the outside and not working, but he'll get a good cut back and get some good drive off the last corner, and that was his plan, and it seems to have worked. He's got a good run now on McEwen, and he's going to try and go around the outside, but you need to get the inside really. You can really defend on this course quite well if you just hold the inside around the whole track. It's pretty much impossible to overtake, and they're going to overtake Greg, who's come back out after a pit stop to see if that's fixed it, but doesn't look like it has. And Liam quite easily holding that off. McEwen number 41, we spoke about why that number is important to him, and that's from his Project Cars days. So looking like it's going to kick off at some point here. You can see that Piper's getting involved as well. Milden in 8th now, he's passed half the field. And there is Greg, look, just letting everyone past like the professional he is. And there's Suter's getting past. Looks like it was, yep, it was Sharp, with Riley now getting involved as well. Riley having a bit more of a bit of a better showing in this race than he did at Blue Moon Bay in the first rounds. He's definitely getting involved in the racing, which is a bit more like it, and the field does seem to be closing up week in, week out, so that's good news for the championship. And the cars just look amazing, and again, shout out to Ash for that. The cars look amazing, and this racing is getting more and more insane each week, but it's Tompkinson that's found the advantage with these cars at the moment, and everyone else needs to catch up. And speaking of catching up, Cool's around the outside of McEwen, and again he's going to try that, and will it work this time? He's a little bit further up, but McEwen can just force him out if he really has to, but he didn't need to and still maintain second place. Edwards just seems to be backed off this for a minute and just thinks there's going to be trouble, and he's probably pretty clever to do that. Meanwhile, Columbero and Piper still fighting it out, and 7th and 8th now is on, and it's Welsh against Milden. These boys both from the West Country, so it's Devon versus Cornwall, and it looks like Cornwall's down the inside and takes the position. Bit of rubbing, but it was side-by-side contact, and Milden moves up to 7th place. He'll struggle to get any higher up than that because the rest of the field is pretty well gone up the road, but still a great showing from Welsh in 8th place. Needs to watch out for Nick Sargent though behind him, number 13. Like I say, in the laser tool cars, there's Corkery filling in for Andrew Oster, running his number 11 that he chose. But we'll see Andrew back for next week, and he's definitely missing a great race tonight, and I'm sure he'll be gutted about that. Meanwhile, it's now something's changed here, because it looks like it's Edwards in second now, and that's what's happened. And it looks like Sean's ran on at the final turn, and it's split the field there. And yep, Edwards up to second. McEwen maintains third now, and that's moved Piper up to 4th, Columbero up to 5th, Cool down to 6th. So a big mistake there from Sean. In the background you can see the rest headed by Milden, and a contact there between Columbero and Cool, and they live to fight another day in the Seat and the Chevy. Meanwhile, in a race that's not too far from here is this man doing a time trial, and you can see from his lap times that 111s mostly and a couple 12s, but if we switch to another driver you'll see they're mostly 12s, so he just has this half a second, quarter of a second, half a second advantage, and he seems to be able to maintain it through the race. So he's found something with these cars, and it's down to the rest to figure it out, and the champion from last season hasn't figured it out yet. There's Welsh and there's Sargent, and Corkery doing a good job, as we've mentioned, the number 11 car, and Sharp also doing well despite that massive off earlier on when he went testing the gravel at turn 1. Bit of rubbing here with Suiters and Riley, but like I say, much better showing from Riley this week. He's actually getting involved in all these fights and having a good laugh by the looks of it. These guys are knocking each other about a little bit, but so far it's been okay. And there goes John down the middle, 3 into 1. Will that work? No, Suiters into the back of Sharp, but Sharp maintains the position for now, and does, and I think Suiters got out the throttle to let him go, so that was a clever bit of driving, and that's allowed Riley in there. Now it's a drag race down into turn 1, this long straight. And there's Brian Ross there in 14th, and you can see Chris in the background as well. He's just about hanging on to this. Down the inside for Suiters as John tries to go on the outside, and he's going to go on the grass, and he does, testing out the Audi 4-wheel drive, but probably the wrong place to try that and the wrong time to do that. Edwards in second, still ahead of McEwen. Here's the battle for 4th though, and it's Piper against Cool, and it's Vauxhall against Chevy. We've seen these two fight before. Well, all I can say about Piper is that he's gone from zero to hero. To be honest with his driving last season, he was probably one of the most annoying drivers to race. He'd overreact in situations, he'd overdrive situations and cause a lot of contact and a lot of collisions, but does seem to have come back this season with a new frame of mind, and it's getting him results. A little bit quiet in the first rounds, but the tyre wear seemed to be an issue for the pad drivers, and that's been rectified for this week, and you can see that the pad drivers are back in the battle now, with one in second place, one in fourth place, and nearly fifth. But Cool around the outside, and he's got the run down into this next corner, but it turns right, so if Piper can hang on in there, he'll maintain a position, but he doesn't, and he rightfully lets the place go to Cool. He backed out of it, and that is the difference. That is a visual thing of what he's been driving like this season. He's just using his head, taking his time. Points mean prizes, and although that's grass tracking, that's probably not going to help. And that's music to the ears for Colin Barrow, who's closing in now, and if he sees that, he'll probably think that he's starting to struggle a little bit. Depending where you run your brake bars, you can really wear your tyres out, so I think a couple of guys have got it wrong this race, but we'll see near the end now. We're right at the end, so we'll see who's struggling and who's still got grip. There's Suitors on his debut, and there's Riley, who's got past Sharp up into 12th place. Any higher for Riley, he might start getting a nosebleed. He's not been this high up in a race at this stage for a little while, but he's definitely improving each week, as are, like I say, all the guys near the back. They're definitely starting to get it together. There's Edwards ahead of McEwen and Cool, and sideways from Piper, and he's lost momentum, and that will let Colin Barrow have an attack at him down into turn 3. Trying to go around the outside, that's probably not going to work, and Jeff knows it. He'll try the cutback, and then maybe cut back again to try and get a run down to this hairpin, where we've seen Jeff do a few overtakes already in the background, and he's gone for it, but not quite. It was a good try. Gives him a little nudge at the back to say, "What did you do that for? You should have let me go." But that's not touring cars, I'm afraid. So still 5th for the Vauxhall, 6th for the Seat, and that's allowed the Chevy to get away and start attacking for 2nd and 3rd on the podium. It does look like at this stage of the race McEwen's got a lot more tyre than Edwards, despite the tyre wear changes, but at least Edwards is able to hang on. Last week the tyres just fell off and there was nothing they could do. I think it's kept the racing closer as well this week as well with these tyre changes. Meanwhile, Milder in 7th place, not really doing anything he can do about the top 6 at this stage. And here's Riley trying to look down the inside of Sharp, but he's too far back. And Ross has come to join the party as well. Meanwhile, there's still Tompkinson leads ahead of Edwards and McEwen. Cool moving in as well, and it looks like Colin Barrow's dropped back a bit from Piper, and there it is. Leon Welsh doing a great job in 8th. I say Leon would be one of the guys that was at the back last season, but he does seem to be collecting points on regular occasions now, and most of it in the midfield. But he's got Sargent on his debut looking to impress his teammate McEwen, and it looks like he's doing that pretty well, collecting good points. The laser tool car looking at the rocket car in a mad colour scheme, but it does stand out. And he's moving around in the mirrors trying to distract Leon, and he's gone for it. He's taken a late move down the inside. Leon was maybe a little bit wide, but he's got through in the tiniest bit of contact, but that's all fair. And a great move there by Sargent, and moves him up into 8th place at the expense and just before the last lap as well, so double sucker punch there to Leon. But it is Cool and McEwen fighting for 3rd on this last lap, and Cool having a little glance down the inside more to distract McEwen, but it's going to take more than that. We know that, and he says it himself, that McEwen's one of the harder drivers to overtake in the league, and if Cool gets past McEwen, then he's got one of the probably the hardest, which is Edwards in front of him. So yeah, it's going to be pretty tricky for Sean to move forward in that Chevy, number 14. But this is the last lap as well, so maybe these guys need to think about the championship and the points and collecting points, because today it's looking like Tompkinson is pretty much unbeatable. In fact, he's out of that last corner and he's about to cross the line, but we're trying to follow this at the same time. Sean around the outside, but it's not going to work, and it is Tomkinson that wins for the 4 team. Second place for Edwards, third for McEwen, fourth for Cool, and it's fifth for Piper, sixth for Colombo, seventh for Milden, and a pretty good comeback, but really should have made that mistake. And 8th for Sargent, 9th for Welsh. Looks like it's going to be 10th for Corkery. Good drive that, really, coming in last minute as a reserve. Great drive. And 11th there for Souters, 12th for Sharp, 13th for Riley, 14th for Ross, and it'll be 15th for Craigie. And he's got a penalty as well, so just try and get rid of that before he crosses the line. There we go. So that's it. Nathan wins from Lewis, from Liam, Sean, Adam, Jeff, Ben, Nick, Leon, and it is Coleman that finish out the top 10. Join us for race 2 very shortly, and it's the finishing order of race 1, so can Tomkinson repeat his success? Join us shortly to find out.